All right, let's get right into it. Today we're talking about an event that truly sent shockwaves across the country, the fatal shooting of political commentator Charlie Kirk. We're going to walk through all the facts of the case, from the crime scene itself to the suspect now in custody and the motive that's become the absolute center of the legal battle.
So, let's set the scene here. The story starts at a big political rally, right on a university campus, and the crowd, well, it was massive. We're talking 3,000 people, all gathered in the audience at Utah Valley University to hear Charlie Kirk speak. It was this very public setting that became the stage for a shockingly violent turn of events.
And then, from a distance, a single shot was fired. This number, 180, represents the estimated maximum distance of that shot, in meters.
Think about that. From up to 180 meters away, that's almost 2 football fields. A single, precise shot rings out. This wasn't random. It was a calculated act, and it proved to be fatal.
So you've got to be asking, right? How on earth does something like this happen in front of thousands of people? Let's break down the foundational facts of the attack itself.
Okay, so here are the core details you need to know. The incident happened on September 10th. The location was Utah Valley University, where Charlie Kirk was on stage for his American Comeback Tour. He was struck by that single shot to the neck.
So where did the shot even come from? Well, investigators pretty quickly zeroed in on the likely shooter's position. They believe it came from way up on the rooftop of the Lou Center building on campus, which is a considerable distance. That really speaks to the amount of planning involved.
All right, so with the basic facts of the crime established, the authorities launched this massive search for the person who pulled the trigger.
After a really intense 33-hour manhunt, a suspect surrendered. His name is Tyler James Robinson. He's 22 years old, and he is now the central figure in this entire case.
And the weapon, this is a really interesting detail. Investigators identified it, and it wasn't some modern tactical firearm. No, it was an old bolt-action rifle from the World War I era. A very specific and, frankly, highly unusual choice.
So with an arrest made, the whole focus of the investigation just pivots, right? The mystery is no longer who did it. Now it's about the much more complex question, why?
And the answer, at least according to prosecutors, is clear. They are treating this not as just some random act of violence, but as a deliberate and targeted political assassination.
The prosecution's entire argument is being built on what they describe as a stark ideological divide. They point out that in the year before the shooting, Robinson had apparently become more vocal in his support for gay and trans rights. Meanwhile, the victim, Charlie Kirk, was a very prominent and open critic of those exact same issues.
So, how are prosecutors actually building this case for a political motive? Let's dig into the key pieces of evidence that have been brought to light so far.
A huge piece of the prosecution's case seems to hinge on a note that Robinson allegedly left for his partner. In it, he is said to have identified Kirk not just by his name, but by his political standing as one of the country's leading conservative voices.
And the note didn't just identify the target, it allegedly gave a reason. This phrase, quote, had enough of his hatred, is being presented as direct evidence of a motive that's rooted in political and personal animosity.
Now that note is obviously a key piece of the puzzle. But the prosecution's case is also being built on other evidence, including incriminating text messages and physical items they recovered from the scene, like unfired ammunition casings.
And speaking of physical evidence, there's another highly symbolic detail. Unfired ammunition casings found at the scene were reportedly engraved with a reference to Bella Ciao. Now, if you're not familiar, that's a famous Italian anti-fascist song, which you can imagine further cements the prosecution's argument of a political motive.
Okay, so with a suspect in custody and evidence being presented, the case is now moving through the legal system. So where does it stand today, and what can we expect to happen next?
Robinson is now facing a charge of aggravated murder, and prosecutors have already announced their intent to seek the death penalty. Right now, the case is awaiting a preliminary hearing, which will be the next major step in determining how this whole legal process moves forward.
As this case moves forward, it really leaves all of us with a difficult and pretty heavy question to consider. When deeply held beliefs are cited as the motive for violence, what is the impact on public discourse? And how do we navigate disagreement in a world that feels increasingly polarized?